And with this address, I would like to give the floor to His Excellency Odd Emil Ingebrigtsen, the Norwegian Minister of Fisheries and Seafood. The floor is yours.
And thank you, Gunnar. And as a symbol, we have the mask with the fishes on today. So, Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, and dear all, a heartfelt greeting to everybody who is following this event online. Today is an important day. It is the United Nations Human Rights Day, and this year the recovery from the COVID-19 pandemic is in focus, and ensuring human rights is central to the recovery efforts. Now we have to do everything in our power to build back a world that is better, more resilient, just, and sustainable. The fishing industry has an important role in this process. We also know from research that the global fishing industry is under threat from transnational organized crime. This relates not only to illegal fishing, economic crime and corruption, but is also crimes which attack the dignity and respect to which all humans are entitled. Unfortunately, there is evidence of modern slavery in the global fishing industry today. We cannot accept that people are treated like slaves. We cannot accept that fishing companies have to compete in a market with corruption and economic crime. And we cannot accept that criminals are fishing illegally at the expense of livelihoods of coastal populations. This only leads to more poverty. Finally, we cannot accept that these criminals do not pay taxes and duties, income that we need to build a better and more resilient countries and communities. That is precisely why we have launched the Blue Justice Initiative, to work towards a sustainable and fair blue economy free from fisheries crime. I believe that this work is crucial if we are going to achieve the Sustainable Development Goals. The Blue Justice Initiative is based on the Declaration against Transnational Organized Crime in the Global Fishing Industry, which was adopted in Copenhagen in 2018. Through this initiative, the Norwegian government supports capacity building that addresses the challenges described in the declaration. Key issues such as governance, interagency cooperation, fisheries law enforcement, intergovernmental communication, investigation techniques, and human trafficking in the fishing industry will all form part of the initiative. We need to recognize all these issues, and we need more international cooperation. The Blue Justice Initiative is our contribution, and I hope that you will join me in pursuing this important work. Thank you so much for your attention.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency. And now we will move on to the Prime Minister of Norway, Mrs. Erna Solberg.
Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, and dear friends of the ocean. Today, organized crime is one of the biggest threats to our fisheries. It's a threat to many precious marine ecosystems. It's a threat to the livelihoods and food supplies of millions. If allowed to continue, it will decrease the potential for blue growth and severely undermine our ability to reach the Sustainable Development Goals in 2030. Fisheries crime is more than illegal fishing. It includes modern slavery, economic crimes, and corruption. It must be stopped. I am stressing this both as co-chair of the UN Secretary General's Advocacy Group and as co-chair of the high-level panel of Sustainable Ocean Economy, and of course, also as Prime Minister of Norway. In Norway, the ocean has been our major source for income for thousands of years. The ocean is very important to us, as it is to many others, especially many developing countries. Neither fish nor crime follow national borders. We need international cooperation to solve this problem. We have to think and act globally. The Copenhagen Declaration was an important step, and I strongly encourage more countries to support the declaration. Now, we need to build capacity to face this challenge. The Blue Justice Initiative answers to this need. It's a practical response to the problem described in the Copenhagen Declaration. It is vital for all of us that we succeed in fighting fishery crime globally. I believe that the Blue Justice Initiative will be an important contribution towards a sustainable and fair blue economy, free from fisheries crime. And I wish all of you success in this work. Thank you.
We will now move on to other parts of the world. First, we will have a speech from Mexico, then from Nicaragua, and then we will go back to Europe with a speech from Scotland. And finally, we will head out into the Pacific to the beautiful large ocean nation of Fiji.
Mr. Odd Emil Ingebrigtsen, Minister of Fisheries and Seafood, Royal Norwegian Ministry of Trade, Industry and Fisheries. Dear colleagues, good morning all. On behalf of the Mexican government, it is an honor to address this audience. Mexico, due to its cultural and natural diversity, recognizes its role and responsibility for the security of the planet. This represents both a privilege and a great potential for the sustainable development of the country in the coming years. Also, Mexico is, because our geographical position and economic profile, a country with a maritime vocation, given that our marine territory is almost 50% larger than our continental territorial extension. So fisheries and the aquaculture sector are a priority of Mexico's development. Therefore, tackling organized crime in fisheries is also an essential issue. Recently, a blue paper by the High-Level Panel for a Sustainable Ocean Economy showed that the impacts of the illegal fisheries go far beyond damaging the ocean environment and fisheries, threatening peace and security, depriving oceans nations of revenue, undermining the achievement of the SDGs, and threatening food security. In Mexico, organized crime in the fisheries sector is a critical problem. A clear example is the current situation in the Upper Gulf of California, linked to the broader drug trafficking of international networks. We must approach this issue integrally, prioritizing local communities and ensuring that oceans continue to be a sustainable source of well-being of everybody. Only through cooperation at national, regional, and international level we will prevent, combat, and eradicate transnational organized crime in global fisheries. As you know, Mexico signed the International Declaration on Transnational Organized Crime in the global fishing industry. Also, we are proud to be part of the high-level panel for a sustainable ocean economy, implementing actions towards a more sustainable development of our ocean. We recognize that there is no time to spare, and ladies and gentlemen, you can count that Mexico will do its part.
Su Excelencia, señora Erna Solberg, primera ministra de Noruega, señora Emma Whitboy, directora del proyecto Resiliencia Azul del Programa de Naciones Unidas para el Desarrollo PNUD, señoras ministras, señores ministros, transmitimos el cordial saludo y los mejores deseos de salud, prosperidad y paz del presidente de la República de Nicaragua, comandante Daniel Ortega Saavedra, y de la compañera Rosario Murillo, vicepresidenta de la República. Uno de los ejes prioritarios del Gobierno de Reconciliación y Unidad Nacional de Nicaragua es promover, conforme al derecho interno y el derecho internacional, acciones dirigidas a garantizar la paz y la seguridad internacionales, así como la protección de la madre tierra y sus recursos acuáticos, conservando y utilizando sosteniblemente los mares, los océanos y los recursos marinos que son vitales para la existencia humana en concordancia con los objetivos de desarrollo sostenible. La pesca legal en las comunidades ribereñas, insulares y marino-costeras es base para la seguridad alimentaria, la superación de la pobreza y el desarrollo local. En el eje de seguridad soberana del Programa Nacional de Desarrollo Humano 2018-2021 de Nicaragua, se establecen acciones compatibles con los fines y propósitos de la Declaración Internacional sobre la Delincuencia Organizada Transnacional en la Industria Pesquera y Mundial, conocida como Declaración de Copenhague. Recordamos con satisfacción que nuestro país se adhirió el pasado 24 de junio de 2020 al acuerdo sobre medidas del Estado Rector del puerto destinadas a prevenir, desalentar y eliminar la pesca ilegal no declarada y no reglamentada. Reconocemos y apoyamos los esfuerzos realizados por la iniciativa Justicia Azul a favor de prevenir, combatir y erradicar la delincuencia organizada transnacional en materia de pesca en todo el mundo y los aportes que se hicieron en los simposios de Sudáfrica, Indonesia, Viena y los países suscriptores. La Declaración de Copenhague reconoce que existe un considerable flujo internacional de productos pesqueros ilegales, dinero ilícito y víctimas de la trata de personas como ejemplo de crimen organizado transnacional en la industria pesquera mundial. Es evidente y necesaria la cooperación efectiva entre todos los países y regiones del mundo para la investigación y prevención de esos delitos. El gobierno de Nicaragua considera que ante la evolución de los delitos pesqueros es necesario continuar fortaleciendo la cooperación solidaria internacional y regional conforme a sus legislaciones respectivas y acuerdos internacionales para abordar de manera coordinada y multidisciplinaria la amenaza de la delincuencia pesquera organizada transnacional. Para finalizar, expresamos nuestro agradecimiento al Gobierno de Noruega y al Programa de la Organización de Naciones Unidas para el Desarrollo PNUD por la invitación al Gobierno de Nicaragua y nuestro reconocimiento con la organización de este importante foro sobre la Declaración de Copenhague y la iniciativa Justicia Azul. Muchas gracias.
Hello, and thank you for inviting me to speak at this event today. Scotland has a key role to play in blue justice, and my officials already participate in the North Atlantic Fisheries Intelligence Group. Fishing and marine activities are a significant part of our economy, and in some parts of Scotland, entire local communities rely solely on this. This has been a really challenging year. With COVID-19, we found our regular duties have needed new ways of working that keeps both our officers, fishers and others safe. And that can prove difficult as so much of our officers' duties rely on them interacting with people. There are a number of things that I think we can do better, and I'll outline these in the time that I have. Firstly, I think we need to work together better with other enforcement partners in our collective countries, and more widely, both throughout and across the supply chains. This means taking a holistic view of what's happening from the fishing vessels to the plates on our tables. This means working better with food safety and standards organisations, with tax collecting organisations, with the police, with border authorities and others. There's a huge range of law enforcement organisations, and I believe we can all inform and enhance each other's enforcement capability if we do this. Secondly, I think we also need to be better at ensuring that data flows smoothly between organisations, both at a national level and in a timely manner. This allows action, and organisations learn to be aware of the different risks presented and develop a better understanding of the risks each of us face. Furthermore, as you will all know, crime knows no borders. That's why groups and forums like these are so important, and I want to reassure you of my and Scotland's commitment to this work. Once again, I thank you for the opportunity to speak at this event, and I hope the remainder proves to be enjoyable and informative. I really look forward to hearing more from the outcomes of the event. Thank you.
The Honourable Prime Minister of Norway, Minister of Fisheries, Norway, my fellow ministers, stewards of the ocean, ladies and gentlemen. We are indeed living in unprecedented times. Amidst the COVID-19 pandemic, much have changed and have continued to evolve globally. While our national economies have been affected at different levels, one thing is certain, and that is that most of us have learned to adjust, reorganize, and adapt to the new form. In recognizing how this is likely to continue in coming months, we cannot let our guards down in ensuring the protection of our ocean, its resources, and our very people who depend on it. I would like to thank the Norwegian government for the continuous momentum rendered to the International Declaration against Transnational Organized Crime in the global fishing industry, or the Copenhagen Declaration. Fiji is indeed privileged to be part of this, and I would like to encourage countries and states to join the group in supporting this important work. Additionally, I wish to encourage and mention the operationalization of the declaration through the capacity building framework under the Blue Justice Initiative. Fiji and other countries alike will benefit from the support of Norway, UNDP, and others that are finalizing this work. It is imperative to highlight that transnational organized crime in the global fishing industry has been lingering for some time. It undermines the work that our respective governments do in addressing illegal, unreported, and unregulated fishing, and it certainly takes the fight to a whole new level. A level which deprives economies of their fair share of ocean resources, and one that requires consolidated efforts, collaboration, information sharing, and capacity building, to highlight a few. It is for this reason that we have continued to support the Copenhagen Declaration, which maps out a framework for global political cooperation to address organized fisheries crimes. For countries such as Fiji, we are determined to work towards operationalizing the Blue Justice Initiative, which is aimed at promoting a sustainable and fair blue economy for all, free from fisheries crime. I believe that there is still much to do. However, perseverance and through our efforts of continued collaboration, we will break barriers and rise above all odds. Your Excellencies, I am reassured that with your participation and foresight, we will achieve our shared goals of protecting our oceans, its resources, and our people. In having said that, I would like to wish you and your families a safe and an enjoyable festive season. Vinaka, and I thank you for your indulgence.
Exciting and encouraging words from the ministers. Now, I would like to ask the Norwegian Minister of Fisheries and Seafood to take the floor again. So, thank you.
Thank you, Gunnar. Participants across... Skulle jeg snakke nå? Thank you, Gunnar. Dear participants, a cross-cutting issue when dealing with fisheries crime is international cooperation. We know from experience that communication between governments is essential when dealing with complex international problems. This is basically the reason for this conference today. We also need to create conditions for communication between countries on a more practical level. This is the reason why we have supported the development of a secure digital communication platform. This platform, called the Blue Justice Community, can be used when governments, authorities need to cooperate with each other across borders in a secure way. The development of this tool is being done in cooperation with a similar tool we already have in Norway called the Barents Watch. This tool safely allows communication between government agencies in our own country. Based on our experience from this technology, we have created a prototype for international cooperation and capacity building across borders. The goal for the Blue Justice Community is to allow governments to work together against organized fisheries crime and to build trust, support effective communication, and promote cooperation across borders. I hope this tool will be useful to combat fisheries crime in the future. Thank you.
There is a growing and urgent need to take joint action towards a sustainable and fair blue economy free from fisheries crime. The transnational nature of fisheries crime requires cross-border cooperation between governments and interagency cooperation within governments. The Blue Justice Community is developed as a tool for international cooperation, allowing governments to work together against transnational organized fisheries crime. The Blue Justice Community is a secure web-based platform to facilitate this communication and cooperation between countries. The goals of the Blue Justice Community are to build trust, support effective communication, and promote cooperation across borders, adapting to governments' needs in a changing world.
And now we would like to draw the attention to the panel, which has been formed here in the studio. To the left is His Excellency Valdemar Kutz, which is the ambassador of Chile to Norway. And then we have Ambassador of Mexico, His Excellency Ulises Canchola Guterres. And then we have the Brazilian ambassador to Norway, His Excellency George Monteiro Prata. So thank you very much for attending. I would like to kick off with a question. And so one of the issues that we see on fisheries crime is that international cooperation is very important, both on a political but also on a practical level. So how do you see that international cooperation can be strengthened between governments? So I would like to ask you, Valdemar, to maybe give a comment to that. And please join if you have some comments on this question. Thank you.
Well, first of all, thank you for the invitation. It's a privilege to be here today. My country has a very strong oceanic vocation. It is the 10th largest fishing nation of the world, the 5th major exporter of seafood, and the 2nd in aquaculture of salmon after Norway. So the ocean economy is very important for us. We also signed, as the first Latin American nation, the Copenhagen Declaration, which is the political basis. It's the roadmap for addressing these very important issues. Tax crime, money laundering, and others. Illegal fishing as well. And well, we see this as it is a transnational issue, we have to foster cooperation, international cooperation and regional cooperation through capacity building, through a cross-border cooperation. And we have done so in our region, in the South Pacific. We have an institution called the Permanent Commission for the South Pacific. And within that institution, together with other countries such as Colombia, Peru, and Ecuador, we have established seminars, symposia, and other capacity building measures in order to address these transnational crimes. We also have cooperated with other countries within the framework of the South Pacific Regional Fisheries Management Organization, also within some seminars and so on. So yes, we believe that this is something that we have to address globally and regionally. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mexico, do you have a view on this issue?
Oh, definitely. Yeah. And thank you very much for the invitation. I'm particularly honored to be sharing this panel with dear colleagues of the region. Latin America plays really an important role in this regard. And for one, Mexico also is playing its role in that regard. But let me just add up to what my colleague from Chile was saying, and let me take a broader perspective. Of course, it is important for us to be cooperating in the basics, namely exchanging information, exchanging good practices and lessons learned. Of course, it is always useful to learn from each other, mainly on capacity building. But there is another aspect that we should be aware of. And if I may, I would like to take a broader perspective. First of all, we are dealing with a transnational, transborder issue. This implies that we don't have a central international entity where we can, so to speak, exchange information or cross-reference information, a clearinghouse, so to speak. So that's really a challenge. We have tried this in the past. The Extinct Commission on Sustainable Development tried to do that. UNIC also in the last 20 years has been struggling with this. But again, we need to recognize that there we have a challenge. Second, the other challenge that we also must recognize is that we have a state reporting fatigue, and not only in the area of the realm of fisheries, but at least according to my experience, I've seen this in transnational organized crime, corruption, terrorism, even human rights. So we have to be aware of these challenges. How can we engage them or try to resolve them? One way forward would be, for instance, to come up with a matrix where we can identify what kind of mechanisms we have, international, regional, what kind of instruments we have, both soft law and hard law, and how can we make the right mix in order to tackle these issues properly. Again, this goes hand in hand with other very important issue, which is awareness, and this kind of fora, like the one we are participating, and of course initiatives like the High Panel are very, very important. Thank you very much again for the opportunity.
Thank you. And Brazil, do you have maybe a comment to this issue?
Well, first of all, I also would like to thank you for this invitation. As you know, Brazil is the country with the biggest coast in the South Atlantic, and all issues concerning, you see, the oceans are important for us, and this specific issue of illegal fisheries is also affecting Brazil as it's affecting many other countries. I believe that this is a very important matter that should be addressed in two levels, because as my colleagues have said, this is an international and a transnational issue. And we have to address this problem at this level. But we also have to address this problem at a regional level. And I say so because I think it's easier to have concrete programs if we address this level in a regional level. As we know, illegal fisheries has to do not only with criminality, but it has to do with labor issues, it has to do with environmental issues, it has to do with many other different aspects. So I think that if we start to see ways on how to cooperate in the regional level, and if we get assistance and financing from international organizations, that should be a good way to start with coping with this problem.
Thank you very much. So another issue is the political awareness about this. My own experience is that there is a lack of political awareness globally for all these complicated issues relating to fisheries crime. Could you, from your perspective, say something about how important political awareness is on this issue, and maybe also to elaborate on how this maybe can evolve in the future? So the floor is, Valdemar.
Well, thank you for the question. I believe its awareness is very, very relevant, especially politically. So therefore, I would suggest, for example, to address this within the framework of the United Nations General Assembly. There's a resolution that is addressing this issue. We can, this is a Resolution 62/112. We can also address all of these issues within the UN Security Council. Norway is a member, will be a member, a non-permanent member in the near future, because there are issues that affect international security. And then, obviously, all of the countries, 28, so far as I know, that have adhered to the Copenhagen Declaration, should formally do so. So you have kind of 3 steps in order to highlight the political role of the declaration as a roadmap into the future.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
I would add on, from Mexico's perspective, I think that we should be focusing on 3 main areas when we're talking about raising awareness. Awareness of the fishing value chain and its interconnectedness. Awareness of the need to tackle the issue comprehensively. And thirdly, awareness of the need to be working collectively in different levels, local, regional, and international. One way to do it, of course, are campaigns, are promoting this kind of forum. And also, as I was mentioning in my last intervention, promoting resolutions within the UN. And that would be by itself a challenge. As my colleague was saying, we have resolutions in the UN General Assembly, CCPCJ, in the area of criminal justice. We also have some realm to maneuver, even the Human Rights Council. But we must do this bearing in mind that we are building up or complementing the regime of IUU, which will be spreading, again, across all the board of different issues that we'll be dealing.
Thank you.
Well, of course, political awareness is very important, and that's why you see the Blue Justice initiative is so important. But I'd like to note that I was surprised with the number of countries that are taking part in this meeting today, which says that the awareness is there. Of course, we have to keep pushing it, and we have to keep spreading our word regarding the importance of this issue. But the awareness is there. In our continent, you see, we are 3 ambassadors speaking about this issue right now, but there are other countries that are interested in the issue. And every day I see new countries that want to be engaged, that want to do something. And I agree with the fact that the United Nations system is a good place for us to address this issue and to keep working to spread our word regarding the importance about fighting illegal fisheries.
Thank you very much. I see we have some time left. So I was wondering, now we have 3 ambassadors from 3 important countries in Latin America, and we also see from the list of participants at this conference that Latin America is very well represented. I believe it's one of the continents which are most represented in the countries that are participating. Could you say something about the potential role of Latin America? What is the role? What is the challenges of the region? And do you have any perspective on how, if as the Brazilian ambassador said, that to work regionally is important, but what is the potential role of Latin America? Valdemar?
Thank you for the question. Well, first of all, our nations suffer very much from these scourges. Illegal fishing, as we said, tax crime, smuggling, slave labor, and so on. Regional cooperation, as I said, has been addressed through this institution, which I mentioned, in the South Pacific. But there is also another dimension, which is the losses that all of these countries suffer from this specific threats. For example, in Chile, only through illegal fishing in 1 year and in one fishery, we lose about $300 million yearly. So you can imagine the losses, the tax revenues that our countries are losing in terms of investing in health, in education, and so on. And the other thing that I wanted to highlight is our participation in the high-level panel for a social sustainable economy, another very important Norwegian-led initiative. And these threats not only were addressed through one of the reports, one of the blue papers, but they all are hindering the emergence of a sustainable ocean economy. They really do hinder this. So it's something that we should also address in a global perspective, in terms of reaching it's blue justice plus a sustainable ocean economy. It's something that goes hand in hand. Thank you.
Oh, that's thank you very much.
Well, as for regional, if I may.
Go ahead.
Thank you. How do we see regional cooperation in the future? Well, first of all, I would invite us to take a look at what has been regional cooperation in the past, where Latin America has been playing a role, even in the negotiation of UNCLOS. Was really a very, very important participation and coordination of Latin American countries. Still today, we are witnessing a very fruitful cooperation in matters related to this multidimensional problem that entails IUU, again, from transnational organized crime, drug trafficking, and human rights, even fiscal issues. From Mexico's part, if I may, of course, we've been trying to play a critical role. We've been very active, and not only, for instance, in the establishment of unique polos and its further development in sustainable development issues. We've been also leading some initiatives on corruption, the Merida Convention, for instance, and of course, when we were dealing with implementation mechanism of the Palermo Convention on transnational organized crime. So I think as a region, we have solid basis to keep working both on raising awareness and on regional cooperation to tackle IUU.
Thank you very much. We have just a little bit more time before we have to move on. So any last minute comment?
I think that we should not forget that Latin America is situated between the two most important oceans, or two biggest oceans in the world, the Atlantic and the Pacific. And those two countries, those two oceans are very important to a huge number of countries in different ways. So I think that, you see, in a larger perspective, the contribution that we can make to this discussion is the fact that we have different perspectives, that, you see, those issues affect us in different ways. But despite of that, we are willing to sit down to discuss those problems and to find ways to cooperate and to see how to go ahead.
Thank you very much. Unfortunately, we're running out of time. It was a very interesting discussion. And now I would like to move our attention to Copenhagen. In Copenhagen, Camilla Brückner from UNDP is waiting for us, and she will take over. And so please, Camilla, the show is yours from now on, and then we will come back.
Hello, Excellencies, Ministers, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you can hear me. My picture is slightly blurred. I don't know if that has any effect, but I will carry on. I think you can hear me. Otherwise, I expect, Gunnar, that you will let me know. It's a real pleasure for me to co-host today's Blue Justice Conference, and I'm really, really sorry and disappointed that I couldn't meet all of you here in Copenhagen at the UN City today. We had really looked forward to getting together again following our conference a couple of years ago, and now that we had done a lot of work in the meantime. So apologies for that, but this is how it is. We have created, in cooperation with UNODC, the Norwegian Ministry of Trade, Industry and Fisheries, the Nordic Council of Ministers, and the North Atlantic Fisheries Intelligence Group, this Blue Justice Conference. I look forward to discussing with colleagues around the world the way forward towards fostering international cooperation and a sustainable and fair blue economy free from fisheries crime. UNDP has a broad focus and objective of supporting developing countries to strengthen resilience towards realizing the Sustainable Development Goals. The SDGs have a central role to play, protecting and promoting fundamental human rights, which is particularly pertinent on this day, which is the International Human Rights Day today. So it's a nice day to have this conference to underline how this is also an issue that touches upon human rights. Failure to effectively address or combat transnational crime in the fisheries sector leads to the inability of meeting a number of the SDGs. Today, more than ever, SDG 16 and its focus on peace, justice, and inclusion are vital to safeguard rights across the entire SDG spectrum and make good on the commitment to leave no one behind. UNDP focuses on assisting countries programmatically and capacity development to this end, and UNDP's Blue Resilience Project under Norway's Blue Justice Initiative aims at supporting developing countries for effective governance response to addressing organized crime in the fisheries sector. Blue Resilience focuses particularly on supporting countries to realize the SDG Goal 16 of peace, justice, and strong institutions, which enables meeting all other SDGs, including SDG 14, which is life underwater. The goal SDG 16.4 is particularly relevant, namely combating all forms of organized crime, and the related SDG 16.5, substantially reducing corruption and bribery in all its forms. Yesterday, in fact, December 9th, was World Anti-Corruption Day, and efforts to reduce corruption globally are imperatives in all spheres of governance, including the fisheries sector. UNDP, through the Nordic Representation Office, which I head, has particular expertise in the sphere of governance, making it a natural home for the Blue Resilience Project. Specifically, UNDP has applied research expertise in the area of governance and the SDGs, and the project draws on the Oslo Governance Center in this regard, supported by the Norwegian government as well. UNDP, furthermore, has institutional expertise in designing and developing learning packages to support requesting states in capacity building. UNDP also works broadly on a wide range of ocean matters towards realizing the SDG 14, including ocean governance, diplomacy, anti-corruption efforts in the maritime sector, green shipping through the International Maritime Organization, the World Maritime Organization, and Maersk, private sector engagement, innovation and acceleration, and knowledge sharing. The objectives of the Blue Resilience projects are qualitative empirical research on global institutional cooperation models to be used to develop a learning package to support countries in effective governance and in addressing fisheries crime. The research phase is drawing to an end. The research team has conducted 27 interviews with experts in altogether 20 countries and 5 relevant institutions, and held experts consultation to validate findings. The findings will be presented by our lead researchers at a webinar later today at 15:30 CET. The next phase will be to use this knowledge to design and implement learning models to support interagency cooperation under this project. UNDP's relationship with Norway and the broader Nordic region in the areas of fighting fisheries crimes dates back to cooperation from 2017, where Nordic Fisheries Ministries signed a declaration against organized crime in the fisheries sector. In 2018, the Nordic office hosted the then Fish Crime Symposium at UN City in Copenhagen in cooperation with the Norwegian Ministries of Fisheries and other international partners. It was at this symposium that the Copenhagen Declaration was born, hence its name, with 8 ministers, including Norway, coming together to show cooperative support to address fisheries crime. Today, I hope to continue the momentum of those states supporting the Copenhagen Declaration and to encourage new states into the group of countries supporting the declaration. The Secretary General of the Nordic Council of Ministers is with us today, and she represents the Nordic Ministerial Declaration of 2017, which was the inspiration for the Copenhagen Declaration, and on which its provisions are modeled. So thank you for that inspiration. So without further ado, it is my pleasure to introduce to you the Secretary General of the Nordic Council of Ministers, Ms. Paula Lehtomäki. Over to you.
Thank you so much, Camilla, and good afternoon, everyone. It's very much a pleasure for me to attend this conference on Blue Justice. And I would like to begin by thanking the organizers for having this conference and following up on the declaration that was signed here in Copenhagen on the occasion of the first of the Fish Crime Symposium in 2018. As you are aware of, for the Nordic region, the ocean plays an important role in our identity and economy. Our region is to a large extent made up of vast ocean areas from the Barents Sea in the north to the Baltic Sea in the south and the North Atlantic Ocean in the west. The Nordic Prime Ministers have set the target so that the Nordic region shall be the most sustainable and most integrated region of the world by 2030. It goes without saying that healthy oceans and sustainable ocean economy is a prerequisite for reaching this vision. In our work with the vision, the Nordic Council of Ministers will carry out several cross-sectoral initiatives relating to the ocean. We see sustainable use of the ocean as an important key to our common future. This is why this work is so important. Organized fisheries crime does neither respect borders, nor does it respect the ocean environment and the communities that depend so heavily on them. These are transnational challenges and call for international collaboration. And therefore, the Nordic countries are collaborating to work against transnational organized fisheries crime. As was mentioned, in 2017, 8 Nordic fisheries ministers signed a declaration against organised crime in the fisheries sector. It was the world's first regional ministerial declaration of this kind. Since then, the number of countries supporting the work against fisheries crime has been growing. In 2018, a large Ocean Nations Forum on fisheries crime was launched here in UN City in Copenhagen, joining forces between governments, intergovernmental organizations and civil society. The Nordic Council of Ministers will contribute to another forum of this kind in the Faroe Islands in 2021. For us, the important topics are sustainable use of marine resources, improved food security, human rights and welfare of people dependent on the blue economy, and making sure that countries do not lose out on crucially important marine resources. So the work continues. Ladies and gentlemen, I think the great attendance in this event today is very encouraging, and it shows that we are meeting the challenge of blue justice in the best and in the needed way through international cooperation. I wish you a successful conference today, and I thank you for this opportunity to address you. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Paula. That was a very inspiring input. And you and I will now have a short discussion. And it is my pleasure and privilege to pose you the first question. So, Paula, you mentioned that the Nordic Council of Ministers will carry out several cross-sectorial initiatives relating to the ocean. Can you tell us more about this?
Yes. First of all, the cross-sectoral cooperation is something that we are working very much now in order to strengthen it. And of course, ocean issues and blue issues are part of it, as they are very much part of our competitiveness and part of our welfare most of all. So I would like to mention that, for example, marine plastic litter and microplastics are some concrete areas of now cross-sectoral cooperation that we are focusing on. I would say that these are also pretty new areas of cooperation. So because we know that what kind of a problem plastic is when it goes to the oceans. So these are one of the important work that we are now doing.
Yes, thank you. That is a worldwide issue that UNDP is also working on. I have one more question for you. The Nordic Council of Ministers is organizing, facilitating the international cooperation in the Nordic countries and the autonomous areas. How do you view your role in a broader global context, for instance, with regards to supporting the Sustainable Development Goals, including now fisheries crime?
Well, first of all, sustainability is, of course, a very overarching topic, and it is something also that we try to take into account in all our activities. And as relates to the Agenda 2030 goals, sustainability goals, so we are also cooperating in order to support our member states and autonomous areas to implement those goals and to reach those goals also in their national policies. But I would like to mention the two most important tracks. The first is that it is, of course, extremely important that we are working for sustainability goals in our own actions and within the Nordic region. And there, of course, the vision of becoming world's most sustainable area is very important. But in addition to that, it is, of course, very important that we do our best in order to support the sustainable development all over the world. And there in the Ministerial Council, for example, we are as a platform, and we support our countries to cooperate on the international fora, in international negotiations, and these kind of occasions, in order to have an even stronger influence, not only here within the Nordic area, but also globally. Nordic countries are very big partners in development cooperation, for example. So in that sense, also every kind of cooperation is very much welcomed.
Thank you. That was a very comprehensive answer. Indeed, the Nordic countries are a very important partner to the work that UNDP and other UN agencies do in this area as well. And I believe you have some questions the other way to me in this session.
I would like build a bridge from what we just discussed. As I mentioned, it's very important that to show good example and lead by example. And this is, of course, very typical and important for us Nordics. Now that you offer this opportunity to ask something, so of course it would be interesting to hear from you, since we are both also organizations located here in Copenhagen. That has there been come up something within UNDP that you would like to see more cooperation from our side, or something that we could even more support the very important work that you are doing?
And likewise, yeah, the Nordic region has shown, both via the Nordic Atlantic Fisheries Intelligence Group and the wider cooperation we've had with the Nordic Council and Council of Ministers, the value of the cross-border cooperation in addressing this particular issue of fisheries crime. And in this case, also tax and economic crime in the fisheries sector, which is also very influential. And we should build on this model of cooperation and encourage broader cooperation in the Nordic region, I believe, and beyond, in tackling all forms of crime in the fisheries sector. UNDP, with its Nordic office here in Copenhagen and with the satellite offices in both Helsinki, Stockholm, and Oslo, is excellently placed in this regard to facilitate such cooperation across the Nordic countries, including under its Blue Justice project, of course, focusing on supporting governments to enhance their institutional cooperation in addressing fisheries crime across borders as well as nationally. So we would really welcome a strengthened cooperation here. So, yeah. And do you have any further issues that you would like to raise?
No, I don't think so at this stage. I'm very grateful for the conference, and it's very important that we are following up the Copenhagen Declaration in this way. As you mentioned, there is a lot of work to be done, and we are more than willing to join our forces in order to reach the common goals even in a better way. So I thank you very much for this opportunity, and I wish you successful continuation for the conference.
Thank you very much. So let me allow me to thank you, Paula, but also rounding off with another comment on the real importance of the Nordic as front runners for what we popularly call building back better and greener. The support UNDP is receiving from the Nordic is crucial for us, and to be able to provide the help needed in the world's poorest and most vulnerable countries, facing, human development crisis now, which is unprecedented in its proportions, especially with the COVID-19 pandemic, and which we risk losing many years of development. The Nordic countries are a huge inspiration. Not only are they a very important funder and providing resources, but also a very important policy partner for our work, setting priorities, across the world, across our network of 170 country offices in 170 countries. So there is a multiplier effect of the Nordic countries' efforts and input to our organization, as well as the other UN organizations. And the other thing is that I think we see that the Nordic countries are also a huge inspiration to developing countries in both the systemic models that you apply, the cooperative methods. And this is also what we try then to transmit and put at their disposal, the inspiration from also the lessons learned in the Nordic countries, which has also provided solutions to many problems that are real for them today. And not least also help providing the initial investments in the form of ODA, but providing or making that the platform for further financing to achieve the Sustainable Development Goals. And facilitating the support that the world now needs through UN and its partners has this multiplier effect, as I said. UNDP's results on the ground shows that investment through the Nordic ODA, so Development Aid Cooperation, does provide dividends. And to tackle this pandemic especially, we must now rebuild trust in cooperation within and among our nations, between people and their governments, to invigorate and strengthen the international system, both the one you work for and the one I work for. And coping with an overcoming COVID-19 requires countries to have inclusive and strengthened institutions across all sectors. So the Nordics, I just wanted to say as a concluding remark, are a great example for exactly that. So thank you very much again. Now it is my pleasure to introduce Jakob Vestergaard, the Minister of Fisheries for the Faroe Islands. Jakob, over to you. Jakob, we need you to unmute your microphone. Thank you.
There. Ministers, Excellencies, distinguished delegates and participants, it's a great honor and pleasure for me to address this conference on a very important issue on transnational organized crime in fisheries sector. The Faroe Islands are dependent on the sea and its resources and opportunities it provides us for economic growth, food security, and the well-being of our people. Our foremost goal is to support a healthy fishing sector that is based on fair competition and the sustainable use of the ocean. The Faroe Islands was one of the nations represented at the Copenhagen Symposium in 2018, where the Minister's Declaration on Transnational Organized Crime in the global fishing industry was adopted. We see the declaration as a framework for future international cooperation to find solutions to combat fisheries crime, and I will like to urge all countries to join and support the Copenhagen Declaration. I'm very fond of the term of large ocean nation. This is what we prefer to call ourselves as an island nation. In turn, appeals to the strength and opportunities of small island nations, highlighting the size and potential of our marine jurisdictions rather than focus on the limit of our land area and population size. In the international context, the concept of large ocean nation underlines the value of cooperation among equals. We are connected by similar realities, challenges, and opportunities as island nations dependent on the sea for our quality of life and future development. As a small island nation with a large ocean around us, we are particularly keen to collaborate with other small island nations on fisheries crime. We want to facilitate more direct exchange of knowledge and experiences from islands to islands, with the aim to protect and build a sustainable and fair blue economy free from fisheries crime. Working closely with relevant international partners and networks, we believe we have much to offer when it comes to sharing our experiences as a very small administration in dealing with fish crime. We welcome the initiative from this conference on transnational organized fisheries crime, and we look forward to future close cooperation with all of you in the time ahead. We must continue to work actively against all those who undermine our effort to ensure sustainable fisheries. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much to Jakob Vestergaard, the Minister of Fisheries for the Faroe Islands, and thank you also so much for your support and for your commitment to the Copenhagen Declaration. We will count on your further support and engagement. Great with a small nation to join this initiative. Now I want to proceed on to the recorded messages from Greenland and the Marshall Islands. So over to Greenland.
Asasakka sulaqatit asasakka ikingitit luannaatigaanga uunga pisimut paqataasinnaagama laaqqangasaasiatigit ingerlanneqaarorteq nunarsoor tamakkassigu tunillaatsuunneq pissigaligu uppegaara pingaatiqarluinnartiisoq ingerlaavartimik oqallittarnitsarput aporpinnut anigerniagatsunut pingaatilinnut unamminartinullu inittut naapiuingikkaluarta aaqqitsuisit qoyappigaatsi pisimut uunga sulinisqarloorsimanitsinnu nunarsuutsin malingismaneqarpoq nunat tamala akannanni aqassmaarpineqalassimaseq uneequtitsillutik aalisapilittinut sianiginniinneralannitsaq nunat tamala akannanni suleqatingillornitsaq pisariaqartinneqarpoq aqitsisit suliniseqarnitsamut peqataatillingit uneequtitsillunimi aalisapilinneret амассанатсигит оқимаатсиннаасармата сулиитсартаа нунат тамала аканнанни сулеқатингиллоорнитеқ пингаратеқарлуиннарпоқ нунат киллинги нунавитсуил акиморлугит аама пингаартиивоқ пеқатаатитсаллугит аалисарнерип илавани иммиккит илисмасаллит ативисит аама акилеқартарнам ақитсит илангиллугит аалисарнерип илавани илисмасақарнерилернитса ингерлаавартимик сулитсигивартариақарпарпут аама аалисакканик туниситсааннер эққарсаатингалигу укиини аккассини нунат тамала аканнанни ингерлаавартимик атсигиингитсит сулеқатингалигит ингерласариақарнитса пеқатааппингаарпут калаас нунаата 2017-ними нунат аваннарлит унеэққутитсиллуни аалисартинут налнааратаат пеқатааппингаа калаасит нунаата 2019-ними нунат тамала аканнанни унеэққутитсиллуни аалисартинут акивиниарнаммут налинаарат пеқатааппигилерпаа калаасит нунаата аама аллантикуп аваннаани аалисарнамму исмалеэқатингиситақ наафик 2020-мерсеқ пеқатааппингаа сулеқатингиннерат нунарсоормут тамармут сиароорнитсаа аама сумиппиккиитаартини ингерлиннеқарнитсаата пингааратеқарлуиннарпиани аама таматта инивиақатингитсинни пюлиссигисариақарпарпут инивиақатингин ақитсинеқ киллилассуинерли паасиминартеқ аама суккасиимик паасисситсаник паарлаатеқатингиттарнитсақ ақитсисит аканнани пингааратеқарлуиннарпут калаас нунаат инивиақатингииттут аалисарфигивоқ уангит аама исимақатингаарпут нунарсоорм тамармут унеэққутитсиллуни аалисарти пиллугит унамминартиисоқ аннаттеэ нунанут нунарсоор тамаккаллугу аалисарфиисун унеэққутитсиллуни аалисапилиттут акаанниатсаллугит нунат тамалаат аканнанни сулеқатингииннер таперсассаппарпут тамат пеққитсимик ининеқарнитсатсинни китсааппатси qoyana
Her Excellency Erna Solberg, Prime Minister of Norway, honorable ministers, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. Greetings in Yahweh from the Republic of the Marshall Islands. First and foremost, on behalf of His Excellency President David Kabua and the people of the Marshall Islands, it is my privilege and honor to acknowledge Her Excellency Prime Minister Erna Solberg of Norway for her message in this formal high-level meeting on the Blue Justice Conference in this virtual setting in the midst of pandemic. Briefly, the Marshall Islands is in the western and central part of the Pacific, comprising 29 atolls and 5 low islands. These atolls and islands are scattered over the expanse of the Pacific within an exclusive economic zone of 2 million kilometers square. The main resource of the Marshall Islands benefit from its fisheries. Over the past years, with the assistance of partners, including regional organizations as Pacific Island Foreign Fisheries Agency, partners to the Narrow Agreement, Western and Central Pacific Fisheries Commission, and the Secretariat of the Pacific Community, the Marshall Islands has benefited greatly in maximizing our tuna resources in a way that is sustainable. In the interest of time, I wish to draw your kind attention to 3 main progresses and challenges that have surfaced here in the Marshall Islands. First, the ongoing challenge in combating illegal, unreported, and unregulated fishing in our jurisdiction towards an IUU Free Pacific by 2023. Second, at the national level, COVID-19 pandemic affecting monitoring of transshipment activities, suspension of a fishery observers placement mandate by the Western and Central Pacific Fishery Commission, and surveillance operation under the Pacific Island Foreign Fisheries Monitoring, Control, and Surveillance Framework. And third, maritime boundaries affected by climate change and sea level rise. Although the Marshall Islands is facing certain challenges, we also see some progress in the light of this pandemic era. The Republic of the Marshall Islands welcome and appreciate the assistance with numerous partners, including the governments of the United States of America, Australia, Japan, and the Republic of China, Taiwan. Most recently, both the RMI and Republic of China, Taiwan were accorded with the annual ceremony of 2 coastal patrol boats, in which greatly assist our capacity within the Sea Patrol Division in our efforts to monitor our border control and integrate their enforcement operation within the E-zone. Furthermore, the implementation of IUU Free Pacific by 2023 has garnished effective action against suspected fishing vessels fishing in our waters without a valid fishing license. These are some of the recent progresses and we have experienced. In terms of the need for further capacity building addressing fisheries crimes, the Marshall Islands would welcome additional resources in enhancing our enforcement capabilities at the national as well as the regional level. As a flag state, coastal state, as well as port state, it is the view that strengthening law enforcement and fisheries officers to uphold the rule of law is very essential. We further welcome technical assistance for broader law enforcement activities for the benefit of eradicating all forms of fisheries crimes in the Marshall Islands and the region as a whole. With that being said, Your Excellency Prime Minister Solberg, honorable ministers, and distinguished guests, thank you for giving me this opportunity to present, and I do hope that in the near future, we can interact face-to-face, pending the situation of this pandemic is concerned. Thank you. Comandante.
Thank you, Copenhagen, and now we are back in the Oslo studio. And we are delighted to have joining us from India on behalf of the Minister of Fisheries, Animal Husbandry and Dairying, Mr. Rajiv Ranjan. So over to you, Mr. Ranjan.
For extending invitation to this high-level conference being convened digitally to follow up the International Declaration against Transnational Organized Crime in the global fishing industry, that is the Copenhagen Declaration, and the capacity building initiative, that is the Blue Justice Initiative. We are all aware of the importance of fisheries and aquaculture as a source of food and nutrition, employment and income support. In India, fisheries supports livelihood of over 28 million fishers and fish farmers at the primary level, and at the secondary level, several other millions are there in the value chain. Recognizing the importance of fisheries, the government of India has created a new ministry for this sector only last year. This sector in India has shown impressive growth with an average annual growth rate of almost 11% during the last 5 years. And the fish production in India has registered an average annual growth of 7.53% in the last 5 years. And it stands at an all-time high of 14.16 million metric tons last year. The export of marine products also stood at 1.39 million metric tons, valued at almost $6.73 billion last year. So I'd like to mention that India is fully committed to fight against illegal, unregulated, and unreported the IUU fishing and other criminal activities that jeopardize the sustainability of fisheries and other resources of the oceans. India stands united with the other nations in their commitment to make the Sustainable Development Goals a reality. The SDG 14.4 sets an ambitious target to end overfishing, and the initiatives like this conference provides an opportunity to work together to achieve this goal. As regards the cooperation with the Norway in fisheries, India traditionally has close relations and an active joint working group in the field of fisheries is there. India wants to continue and consolidate our engagement with Norway for further strengthening the cooperation in the sector. Both Norway and India are among the major aquaculture countries in the world and have ample potential for further enhancing bilateral cooperation in the fisheries sector. In addition, there is a Indo-Norway Joint Task Force on Blue Economy, which has initiated the India-Norway Ocean Dialogue in January 2019 on the occasion of a visit of Her Excellency Norwegian Prime Minister to New Delhi. It's a very effective platform for working together on the front of sustainable and fair blue economy. It is the larger joint responsibility of the global community to address the emerging problems of transnational organized fishing crime. India, in the core of its policies, advocates for a transparent, fair, and just business for all. We are fully against the unlawful and criminal activities in the fisheries sector at all levels and support the cause addressed to the Blue Justice Initiative. However, it's also pertinent to point out the capacity constraints of developing countries which need to be taken into account while the obligations of these countries are genuinely implemented in the international commitments are assured. Therefore, there is a need for the capacity building and technical assistance for fostering such invaluable cooperation. I strongly believe that the Blue Justice Initiative would be useful in bringing the nations together to work in tandem towards creating a fair blue economy free from fisheries crime. India is also in the process of formally joining the Copenhagen Declaration as requested by Norway. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and thank you for those very kind and encouraging words. We now will move across the ocean, over the Indian Ocean, and give the floor to the South African Minister of Environment and Fisheries, Her Excellency Barbara Creecy.
Thank you very much. Ministers, Excellencies, distinguished guests, thank you very much for inviting me to participate today in this high-level conference aimed at finding lasting solutions to criminal use of our marine resources. Allow me at the outset to acknowledge that all of us have been affected by the COVID-19 pandemic, and I take this opportunity to express my condolences to those of you who have lost friends and loved ones or who have been otherwise affected. South Africa is honored to be part of the Blue Justice Project, which aims to support developing countries in implementing the Copenhagen Declaration. Central to this important global initiative is a fair blue economy for all, one that promotes the rights of small-scale fisher communities in a coastal economy free from criminality. Currently, the South African commercial fishing sector contributes approximately $667 million to the GDP of our country and supports 50,000 formal jobs and 27,000 informal jobs. Since 2019, for the first time ever, our government has allocated 15-year fishing rights to 10,363 small-scale fishers organized into 132 cooperatives nationwide. While our fishing sector as a whole was declared an essential service throughout different stages of the lockdown, the sector has not been unscathed by the pandemic. Market disruption impacted heavily on the abalone and West Coast rock lobster sectors, causing particular hardship for fishermen and women and their communities. Our fishing sector, like many in the world, is severely impacted on by organized crime. Research by the United Nations Food and Agricultural Organization estimates that the Southern and East African region lose approximately 12.2 billion South African rand to illegal and unreported fishing every year. Furthermore, the FAO estimates that 85% of fish stocks worldwide are now fully exploited, and illegal fishing is one of the main contributors. As we all know, Excellencies, organized crime deprives states of national revenue and threatens the legitimate fishing industry and the livelihoods of those who rely on it. Consequently, in May 2016, South Africa entered into a partnership with the Norwegian Ministry of Foreign Affairs and our Fisheries branch and our Nelson Mandela University to launch an organization called Fish Force. The purpose of the partnership has been to combat sea fisheries crime and related criminal activities by providing training to all those on the forefront of the battle. Through this partnership, training has been offered to fisheries control officers, police officers, and prosecutors, as well as similar officials in the SADC region. Allow me today to take this opportunity to thank the generosity of the Norwegian government, who has provided grant funding totaling 45 million rand to the Nelson Mandela University. As a result of the Fish Force initiative, I'm pleased to share that we have increased capacity in the oceans domain for environmental conservation and protection. We have managed to definitively strengthen coordination and cooperation between relevant agencies and mechanisms for cross-border investigation of fisheries crimes. By harnessing expertise and simulation of research and promotion of law enforcement activities, we have been able to impact on the wider fisheries and environmental fields. It is important today to welcome the Blue Justice Project that will take over the significant attempts of the Fish Force initiative. Across the globe, Excellencies, progressive thinking makes a link between sustainable development, beneficiation of local communities, and successful resource conservation and protection. Small-scale fishing communities in South Africa were for hundreds of years excluded from formal fishing rights. And our government has now officially recognized and organized them into cooperatives supported by my department. This support includes the granting of 15-year fishing rights, capacitating cooperatives through providing access to business skills, training and development, as well as offering opportunities for financial support in the form of development finance and loans. Apart from giving a bigger share of the market to small-scale fishers than previously has been the case, species basket allocations to the sector are also aimed at sustainably managing our fish resources. Small-scale fishers are also supported by our government during the hardest periods of the COVID-19 lockdown through extending the validity of fishing and harvesting permits, and also in certain instances providing food support. Through the Blue Justice Project, South Africa will continue to receive support not only to strengthen its battles against fisheries and related environmental crimes, but we will also receive support to protect marine resources. And this will help us in our quest to build a collaborative as opposed to an adversarial relationship with our small fishing communities. The Blue Justice Project will also continue to sponsor regional coastal patrols, both in the Indian and Atlantic Oceans, helping us to protect marine resources as key national resources. In closing, allow me to once again thank our partners and assure you of our commitment to strengthening the local and global networks. The Blue Justice Project can only bode well for our country and for our fishing communities. I thank you.
Thank you very much. And now we will move further up the coast from South Africa to West Africa, where Emma Mathieu Glasgow, Director General for the National Fisheries and Aquaculture Authority of Liberia, is ready to give her statement. Thank you.
Dignitaries and members of the High Table, all cooperating agencies, fellow presenters and participants, ladies and gentlemen. Kindly allow me to stand on the existing protocol as Liberia's position on the International Declaration against Transnational Crime in Global Fishing Industry, Copenhagen Declaration. The fight against transnational organized crime in the fishing industry remains unabated, considering variety of reported crimes that are being conducted in the Gulf of Guinea, including trafficking in persons, smuggling of migrants, illicit trafficking in drugs and weapons, piracy, and other security-related offenses, labor abuse, crime committed on the basis of contravention to management and conservation regulations, illegal, unreported, and unregulated fishing, and the list goes on. Liberia has taken numerous steps in action to prevent, deter, and eliminate this heinous crime against humanity and marine living resources that serve as food security to the people of Liberia. In addition to the numerous binding and voluntary fisheries and fisheries-related instruments that Liberia acceded to, including the Posted Measures Agreement, United Nations Convention on the Law of the Sea, UNCLOS, UNFA, United Nations Fish Stocks Agreement, CCRF, National Plan of Action Against Illegal, Unregulated, and Unreported Fishing, National Plan of Action Against Shark, MARPOL, amongst others. Liberia is considering being a party to other legal instruments she is yet to accede. Moreover, Liberia has enacted a new Fisheries and Aquaculture Management Law 2019, reverse of the 2010 Fisheries Regulation, and at the verge of concluding the revision of its 2014 Fisheries and Aquaculture Policy and Strategy documents. Ladies and gentlemen, of pertinent concern is the rate of smuggling of migrant fishermen from neighboring countries that troop into fishing communities in Liberia in search of greater fishing opportunity and settlements, as well as the constant labor abuse that is meted out by foreign crews to local crews on board industrial fishing vessels in Liberia. With relevant government agencies, including the Liberia Immigration Service, the Liberia Coast Guard, the Liberia Maritime Authority, and Ministry of Justice, which form core members of the Monitoring, Control, and Surveillance Coordinating Committee, the National Fisheries and Aquaculture Authority continue to strategize to reduce the reoccurrence of the fisheries-related crimes in Liberian territorial waters. Cognizant to the fact that eliminating transnational organized crimes in the fisheries industry is a global threat, Liberia proposes a way forward to include capacity building, logistical support, networking and establishing a working group platform, legal framework harmonization, political will, and political will. Finally, we believe that harnessing our collective efforts to implement these proposals, we will be on the right track. We need to collaborate in addressing these issues, strengthen our regional network that feeds into the global system. It is more about taking actions. We hope that at the end of this meeting, we can all agree on new innovations and methods to move level of tackling this mess. Thank you all for granting me your undivided attention. Compliments of the season.
Thank you very much, Liberia. We will now take our attention over the ocean, over the Atlantic Ocean and to the Caribbean, where Minister Ezekiel Joseph of St. Lucia, which is also the chairman of the Ministerial Council of the Caribbean Regional Fisheries Mechanism, will read out a message from the CARICOM region. I would also like to mention that there are a number of CARICOM countries attending this event, and I would like to read them out. It's Bahamas, Barbados, Belize, Guyana, Grenada, Jamaica, Montserrat, St. Lucia, Suriname, Trinidad and Tobago, as well as representatives of the Regional Fisheries Mechanisms Secretariat. And now, over to you, Your Excellency, Minister Joseph.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. I want to recognize my colleague ministers, excellencies, participants, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. Like the chair said, I am presenting on behalf of the CARICOM, CRFM member states. Illegal, unreported, and unregulated IUU fishing is considered a major threat to fisheries resources in the Caribbean region, undermining regional efforts to conserve and manage fish stock. IUU fishing leads to the loss of both short and long-term social security and environmental protection. IUU fishing also prevents governments of the CARICOM communities, that's CARICOM countries, from achieving their national and regional agreed management fisheries goal and objectives. CARICOM is concerned about the link between IUU fishing and other forms of crime-related aspects as it pertains to fishing. We have seen documented fraud and forgery. Example, forged fishing license, tax crimes, and money laundering, as well as organized criminal activities associated with fishing, which use fishing as a cover-up, including drug trafficking, human trafficking, arms trafficking, and trading in contraband, fuel, and goods. We are also concerned about the extent of transnational organized criminal groups involved in the fisheries sector in these activities. The CARICOM Regional Fisheries Mechanism, CRFM, is the specialized body responsible for fisheries development in the region. They promote and facilitate the responsible utilization of fisheries resources and aquaculture resources. They have identified IUU fishing activities in the Caribbean region as a threat. These include poaching of neighboring regional fleets in national waters and poaching by industrial distant water fleets in the exclusive economic zone, as well as IUU fishing by national operators in the national waters. If IUU fishing, seafood fraud, and connected maritime crime activities are not dealt with, they can lead to the permanent collapse of our fisheries and seriously impaired efforts to rebuild stocks that have already been depleted, thereby destroying the natural resources based on any potential future economic and social benefit. The fight against IUU fishing and associated maritime criminal activities is therefore a high priority for CARICOM countries. Given the impact on our national and regional security, governance, and sustainable development of our country, the devastation of our economy caused by COVID-19 pandemic is an additional to the negative impact of severe weather systems arising from climate change, have reinforced the urgent need to safeguard our maritime resources in order to ensure food security and protect the livelihood of our legitimate fishers and export earning from the maritime resource. As we protect future social and economic benefits for our economy, we are still at a development stage. Emphasizing CARICOM commitment to dealing with this issue, the 2010 St. Lucia Declaration on IUU fishing outlined the action expected of CRFM member states via a harmonized, multi-pronged approach to combating IUU fishing. The 2014 CARICOM Common Fisheries Policy is an overarching policy of the Caribbean communities and include among its objectives the prevention, deterrence, and eliminating of IUU fishing with an emphasis on the establishment and upkeep of effective monitoring, control, and civilian system. 3 CARICOM specialized institutions, namely the CRFM, CARICOM Implementation Agency for Crime and Security Impacts, and the Regional Security System, RSS, have been working together to address IUU fishing and other marine crimes in the region. Aware that IUU fishing also contributes to illegal trade in wildlife, CARICOM supported the effort of the recently formed Caribbean Wildlife Enforcement Network, CARIWEN, which seeks to counter wildlife crime in the region, as well as the recently adopted West Central Atlantic Fisheries Commission Regional Plan of Action to prevent, deter, and eliminate IUU fishing, RPOA-IUU. In the wider Caribbean region, the development of RPOA-IUU was spearheaded and coordinated by a joint CRFM, WCAF, and OPESCA working group. CARICOM reiterates the view that IUU fishing and related crimes often involve transnational criminal elements. Therefore, there is a need for regional and international cooperation for the prevention, deterrence, and elimination. In this regard, CARICOM recognize and acknowledge the value of the Copenhagen Declaration on Transnational Organized Crime in the global fishing industry, and take this opportunity to register our common interests in that declaration. As small island developing states with significantly resource limitations, CARICOM countries look forward to securing partnership, technical assistance, and support in the implementation of the RPOA-IUU to help resolve the challenges we face in dealing with this scourge. CARICOM stands ready to cooperate with other ocean nations and the UN organization to find sustainable solution against IUU fishing and transnational organized crime in the global fishing industry, and to create a sustainable, fair blue economy for all our people. Thank you very much, and please allow me to wish everyone a happy Christmas and a very successful 2021. And we are committed to continue working with all organizations in trying to remedy these outstanding problems. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much, Minister, and a Merry Christmas to you as well, here from Oslo. Next is from another part of the world. We're back in Asia, and we have a message from the Minister of Fisheries, Douglas Devananda of Sri Lanka.
Your Excellency Erna Solberg, the Prime Minister of Norway, distinguished ministers and other dignitaries, greetings to all of you. My country, Sri Lanka, under the courageous leadership of His Excellency, the President Gotabaya Rajapaksa, and under the guidance of Honorable Prime Minister Mahinda Rajapaksa, is committed to uphold the International Declaration on Transnational Organized Crime in the global fishing industry. Sri Lanka, as a developing country, and in order to comply with the Indian Ocean Tuna Commission, IOTC resolution has so many challenges to combat illegal, unreported, and unregulated IUU fishing. However, we have made sufficient laws and regulations to combat IUU fishing, and we have introduced remote surveillance on IUU fishing and inspections at ports, etc. We have introduced regulations on identification of vessels, regulation on vessel monitoring and observer programs, and regulations have been introduced to ensure seafood traceability. As a tool to detect and prevent clandestine human smuggling, drug trafficking, and other illicit activities conducted where maritime passengers utilizing multi-day fishing vessels. Sri Lanka has already taken action to install VMS transponders to all multi-day fishing vessels operating in international waters registered in my country to combat, deter, and eliminate all these activities. We are also in the process of installing all other multi-day fishing vessels with BMS transponders that are operating from Sri Lanka in order to regulate and monitor the activities of all fishing fleet. In spite of all these efforts, Sri Lanka is faced with foreign trawlers crossing the International Maritime Border Line IMBL and fishing illegally in Sri Lankan territorial waters. They use banned fishing methods such as heavy bottom trawls to harvest fish, prawns, and sea cucumbers. In the process of illegal fishing, the trawls indiscriminately scoop up thousands of tons of bycatch, mostly juveniles, fish, and crustaceans. The trawls also destroy vast areas of the seabed, including corals and multiple marine habitats. The Sri Lanka government's effort to protect the marine environment and to sustainably manage its resources is heavily affected due to poaching by foreign fishing vessels. The goal of our mission should be to coordinate with nations across the globe to effectively address these issues. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And now we will move again. We will move from the Oslo studio to the studio in Vienna, where Jorge Rios from the United Nations Office on Drugs and Crime, which is also one of the partners of this conference and of the Blue Justice Initiative. And so over to you, Jorge Rios.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, Excellencies, distinguished delegates, friends. It's a pleasure from the United Nations Office on Drugs and Crime to welcome you to the high-level opening of the Blue Justice Conference. And now I have the pleasure to introduce the Undersecretary General and the Executive Director of the UN Office on Drugs and Crime, Ms. Ghada Wali.
Serious crimes in the fisheries industry, such as corruption, fraud, and tax evasion, deprive people and governments of income and can undermine the rule of law. These crimes often converge with illegal, unreported, and unregulated fishing, They are also linked to other forms of transnational organized crime, including forced labor and human trafficking. The impact of fisheries crime is particularly destructive for developing countries, which account for some 60% of the world's fish exports. The global COVID crisis has further multiplied opportunities for criminal organizations while leaving communities reliant on the fishing industry even poorer. The urgent need for coordinated action against fisheries crime has never been greater. As the guardian of the UN Convention Against Transnational Organized Crime and the UN Convention Against Corruption, the UN Office on Drugs and Crime helps governments tackle serious crimes along the entire fisheries value chain. UNODC provides technical assistance and raises awareness of the impact of fisheries crime. Our office supports coordination among national, regional, and international stakeholders, bringing together diverse actors to help ensure that the fisheries management sector and criminal justice authorities work hand in hand. I thank Norway for its support for UNODC's work to combat fisheries crime through the Norwegian Agency for Development Cooperation. I also commend the Blue Justice Secretariat for its efforts to galvanize international action, notably through the Copenhagen Declaration on Transnational Organized Crime in the global fishing industry. UNODC looks forward to continuing our close collaboration with member states, UN partners, other intergovernmental organizations, and civil society, working together towards a fairer blue economy. Thank you.
Buenos días a todos. Quiero comenzar agradeciendo la invitación de la Secretaría de la Oficina de las Naciones Unidas contra la Droga y el Delito, Programa Global para combatir los delitos contra la vida silvestre y los bosques, a la honorable señora Erna Solberg, primer ministra de Noruega, así como a mi homólogo, el señor Odd Emil Ingebrigtsen, ministro de Pesca de Noruega, por su gentileza al invitarme en representación del Ecuador a formar parte de la declaración en la conferencia de alto nivel sobre delitos pesqueros y apoyo al fomento de la cooperación hacia una economía azul, justa y libre de delitos pesqueros. Conforme la define la UNODC, los crímenes asociados a la pesca aprovechan la naturaleza vulnerable de esta actividad y llevan a cabo delitos asociados como corrupción, lavado de dinero, fraude documental, trata de personas, evasión de impuestos y fraude aduanero, además de actividades ilícitas desde el punto de vista pesquero, tales como transbordos y pesca ilegal no declarada y no reglamentada. Aplaudimos el desarrollo de iniciativas como la de hoy, puesto que abren espacios que permiten de manera conjunta condenar estas acciones ilícitas que acarrean diferentes problemáticas. Afectan a la economía, distorsionan los mercados, dañan el medio ambiente, socava los derechos humanos y ponen en peligro el desarrollo de una actividad tan noble y crucial para la seguridad alimentaria, de la cual dependen cientos de miles de personas en el mundo, como es la pesca. Como entidad rectora de este importante sector, consideramos que una deficiente aplicación de las medidas regulatorias, sancionatorias y pecuniarias asociadas a la pesca tienden a favorecer el cometimiento de estos delitos y anulan los esfuerzos para la reducción de pobreza de nuestras naciones, por lo que es necesario fortalecer el accionar de los gobiernos de manera integral para conseguir contrarrestar. En este sentido, nos complace compartir que desde el Ecuador hemos reformulado y fortalecido nuestra ley de pesca y acuacultura, publicada en abril de este año y que ha marcado un hito en la implementación de un esquema sancionatorio disuasivo de las actividades de pesca ilegal y cuya aplicación está por reglamentarse a finales de año, proceso que contó con el aporte de la UNODC. Adicionalmente, hemos trabajado arduamente en la sistematización y automatización de nuestros sistemas de trazabilidad, permitiendo a la autoridad tener una postura preventiva y menos reactiva. Estamos conscientes de que faltando mucho por hacer, pero el compromiso de nuestros países para seguir abordando el problema desde una perspectiva integral y coordinada entre agencias nacionales, sin duda es el gran paso hacia una pesca global sustentable y sostenible. Por ello debemos promover aquellos esfuerzos, planes y proyectos que el sector impulsa para generar confianza en los mercados a través de políticas claras de fomento y apoyo sectorial. Quisiera agradecer a aquellos países que se han unido a esta declaración y felicitar además al gobierno noruego por la iniciativa Justicia Sur, la cual busca encontrar soluciones duraderas en compartir los delitos relacionados con nuestros recursos pesqueros. Los invito a generar acciones coordinadas de carácter regional y consolidar los principios de cooperación e intercambio oportuno de información para armonizar la gobernanza de nuestros mares y la gestión responsable de nuestros recursos, precautelando su disponibilidad para las futuras generaciones. Nuevamente agradezco la oportunidad de dirigirme a ustedes en este magno evento para dar fe que con el trabajo de todos podemos continuar la lucha global contra los delitos pesqueros y la pesca ilegal no declarada y no reglamentada. Es un compromiso que hoy nos une a todos. Para ello, la cooperación internacional es fundamental para alcanzar nuestros objetivos y me complace saber que Ecuador no está solo en esta lucha. Señoras y señores, muchas gracias y sean todos ustedes bienvenidos.
Excellencies, distinguished colleagues, before we leave Vienna, let me just reiterate the commitment of the UN Office on Drugs and Crime to work with all member states and all of our partners to continue pushing for the understanding of just how serious these crimes are. And we look forward to meeting in person to discuss not only policy initiatives, but also very detailed technical assistance activities that we can do to support criminal justice systems to address all the crimes, all the vulnerabilities in the supply chain. Now, with that, I bid you farewell from Vienna, and we will take the humble current down the coast of South America, where I now have the honor to ask Ms. Alicia Gallardo, the National Director of the National Fisheries and Aquaculture of Chile, to provide her statement. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Jorge, and we are back in Oslo, and we move straight over to Alicia Gallardo from the National, which is National Director of the National Fisheries and Aquaculture Service of Chile.
We are working in the combating to fight to IUU fisheries, and we are working mainly in the collaboration with different bodies, regional bodies. As example, the ORP del Pacífico and Camalar, in which we work to try to protect and to take measure to have a sustainable use of our resources in this area. Other issue is to work with a special network in Latin America, who call Surveillance, Monitor and Control Network. And we use the different tools recommended by FAO, especially to fight the IUU fisheries in the Latin America area. And also we share information between our countries. And the other important issue is we change our law, as Ecuador mentioned, in Chile is too, related to put more sanctions, penal sanction for illicit activities, related especially with the commercialization, especially networks related with this kind of crime activities. And other issue relevant is to include in the combat of IUU fisheries the citizens, considering the transparency of our information, especially the vessels monitor situation. We had an agreement with Global Fisheries Fishing Watch, and we published all the information in our websites. We had been a very good results using these important and relevant tools. So, in summary, we have mainly coordination, collaboration within the area with different agencies as Cernapesca, and transparency of the information. So with this tool, I think Chile and other countries participating in this project, we can advance in a more sustainable oceans and to take care with our future. Thank you very much again to invite me to this important forum.
Thank you very much. And now for the next speaker, I would say Buenos Dias, Montevideo. The next one is the Minister of Livestock, Agriculture and Fisheries of Uruguay, His Excellency Carlos Maria Uriarte. The floor is yours.
Hello, everybody. Buenas tardes para ustedes. From Uruguay, we would like to strongly support the Blue Justice Initiative, the Norwegian government, in cooperation with other ocean nations and United Nations organizations, to find lasting solutions to combating crimes related to human global fisheries resources and to illegal, unreported and unregulated fishing. We would like also to express that Uruguay has signed the agreement on port state measures in 2016. Looking forward to foster international cooperation in a sustainable and fair blue economy, free from fisheries crimes. Best wishes to everybody from Uruguay. Thank you very much.
Next speaker, I think I have to I'm not sure if there is some technical issues. Honduras, is Honduras available for? Okay, I think there is some technical issues there, so we will move on to a message from Panama.
The government of the Republic of Panama confirms its firm commitment to combat illegal, unreported, and unregulated fishing, which is a flagellum that threatens our marine resources and jeopardizes food security. The Aquatic Resources Authority of Panama is the maximum authority responsible for regulating, promoting, and applying measures for sustainable and responsible use of aquatic resources in order to protect the national aquatic heritage and to contribute to the protection of the environment. This administration of President Laurentino Cortizo Cohen is committed to zero tolerance for IUU fishing practices conducted by nationals or foreign fishing vessels. Among the main achievements towards this goal, we are working together with Global Fishing Watch since October of 2019, making VMS data public and transparent for surveillance and scientific research. We have invested in platforms having today systems in place to pre-approve vessels 96 hours prior to entry into Panama waters and an online international fishing license system that makes available via our website all information aiming towards transparency in the fight against illegal fishing. We have also recently launched the Fishery Product Traceability Project, aimed to end illegal fishing practices carried out in all the world's oceans and endangers the environment, the economy, and our health. And most important, the General Assembly has approved the new law on fishing, aquaculture, and related activities, updating a legislation 62 years old to a modern law with international standards. Illegal fishing is an organized crime that goes hand in hand with other illegal activities and occurs frequently within waters of developing countries where the ability to enforce fishing regulation is often insufficient. The Republic of Panama has undertaken the policy of zero tolerance towards IUU fishing, And we have the goal to become a regional leader in the fight against illegal, unregulated, and unreported fishing, and we invite all countries to work together in order to stop this international crime and make our oceans more sustainable.
Thank you very much, Panama. And we are now near the closing of this event. And I would like to call upon Odd Emil Ingebrigtsen, the Norwegian Minister of Fisheries and Seafood.
So thank you, dear friends and global participants. It's been really inspiring to see so many countries with us today. And it's also a pleasure for me to announce that Nicaragua, Panama and Uruguay has joined the Copenhagen Declaration. And it's also very nice to hear that India today say that they are in the process of joining the declaration. And I also encourage other countries to join the Copenhagen Declaration. One of the sustainable goals of the UN is number 16, I think, which is cooperation. And that's very relevant for today's event. And it's old ancient word of wisdom says that even the longest journey starts with one step. And that's what we have been doing today. The most important thing is that we are moving in the right direction. And Norway, as a small country, has always been dependent upon close cooperation with our other countries in the world. And we are very happy for so many being with us today. Now we're moving forward to the closing remarks, and I would like to introduce my very good colleague, Dag Inge Ulstein. He is the Minister for International Development in the Minister of Foreign Affairs. So Dag Inge, the floor is yours.
Ladies and gentlemen, dear friends of the ocean, all development policy is carried out with one aim at sight: eradicating all extreme poverty in the world by 2030, and also reaching all the other sustainable development goals. There is no way we can reach this goal without unleashing the enormous untapped potential of the ocean. Its potential for feeding those who suffer from hunger, for improving the diets of those who don't, for providing new sources of green energy, for creating jobs, and for preventing and curing illness. Nothing can cover such a large patch of the multicolored palette of the 17 goals like the ocean. That is why today's high-level conference is of such great importance to me. With expected population growth in the years to come, we must rely on the ocean to an even larger degree than today. And even more so in the wake of recovery from the COVID-19 pandemic. A week ago, the high-level panel on a sustainable ocean economy launched its main report and political action agenda. Many people still seem to think that we stand before a hard choice between production and protection. But we have proven before that we can harvest the riches of the sea without reducing their value. If we can take care of the ocean will take care of us. Sustainable ocean management is essential to ensure that we protect, produce, and prosper from the ocean. Fishery crimes and transnational organized crime seriously undermine sustainable development. They harm the ocean and they harm the fight against poverty. They distort competition, sustain corruption, and have adverse impacts on food security, especially on vulnerable coastal states. They also distort the illusion that slavery has been abolished, because it has not. For much too long, we have believed that slavery disappeared when most nations outlawed it around 200 years ago. At about the same time as the first universal declarations of human rights affirmed the fundamental dignity of every person. But slavery never disappeared, and it is high time we wake up to this fact. More people are trapped in slavery than ever before. The global estimate is around 40 million people. We must base our acts on facts, especially in times like these. Migrant fishers throughout the world are in need of protection from abuse and criminal exploitation. That is why I am very pleased to welcome the Blue Fairness Project to the Blue Justice Initiative. It joins the expertise of the International Labour Organization, the United Nations Office on Drugs and Crime, and the International Organization for Migration. It will help us monitor our progress. Norway has launched a development program to combat modern slavery. The fisheries sector is one of the prioritized sectors. Further progress requires us to build capacity through initiatives such as the Blue Justice Initiative. We can only do this if we forge close cooperation, share our knowledge, and step up our action. On that note, I would like to thank all of you for your important participation and contribution today. I hope this conference has served as an inspiration for the continued fight against fishery crimes and transnational organized crime, and for the closely related fight against poverty and for human rights. Thank you.
Thank you, and thank you all of you that have contributed to this tour around the world. I hope that you as a viewer have learned a lot and hopefully also been motivated to be engaged in these questions. We are at the end of this conference. But tomorrow there will be a series of more technical webinars that all of you are welcome to join. So visit the bluejustice.org webpage to have a look at what's happening tomorrow. And we hope to see you tomorrow at the webinars. And to all of you, thank you very much for watching. Merry Christmas and stay healthy. Thank you.